Hi, everyone. Welcome back to English Podcast Voice. I'm Quinn.
And I'm Riley.
Okay, so I want to start with a question for you, our listener.
I like that.
Just, take a second and think back. When was the last time you had a really difficult conversation?
Oh, that's a tough one. It happens to everyone.
Right. Maybe you walked away from a meeting or a party or even just, a quick chat with someone.
And you just walk away from it and
Exactly. You instantly start replaying it in your head. That moment of silence where you just couldn't think of anything to say.
or worse, you said something and it just came out completely wrong.
Yes, that feeling is just the worst, especially when you're trying to communicate in English or, any foreign language.
That moment of instant post-conversation analysis where you just replay the tape in your head and think, I knew the perfect word, but my brain just hit the eject button.
It hit the eject button. That's the perfect way to put it. You know the grammar, you've studied the vocabulary, but then the pressure is on.
And poof, it's all gone.
It's all gone. You could be struggling with something as simple as a morning greeting to a colleague, and you just get this total blackout.
And it feels like such a failure of your knowledge, right? Like you've learned nothing.
It does. But here's the thing we're going to unpack today. That feeling, that moment of freezing up, it's not really a vocabulary problem.
No, it's not. It's a psychological chokehold. It's a very powerful barrier that can stop your growth dead in its tracks.
Precisely. So for this deep dive, our mission is really clear. We are going to understand exactly why we freeze.
We're going to look at what that mental enemy really is.
And most importantly, we're providing actionable, tested strategies. These are tools rooted in actual language research and social psychology. The whole goal is to help you talk to anyone, anywhere, with real confidence.
And we are moving way beyond the generic advice, like, just be yourself. That's not helpful.
Not helpful at all.
No. We're going to look at the research that shows how social and language anxiety is this powerful, debilitating barrier.
Debilitating. That's a strong word.
It is, because it causes real physical reactions. We're talking sweating, trembling, a racing heart. It's not just in your head.
So we need specific tools.
We need specific tools to overcome the negative mindset that's holding us back.
That is the goal. And if you are ready to gain these tools and finally break through those confidence barriers, please encourage us by hitting that subscribe button for English Podcast Voice.
And maybe give this deep dive a like. We're really thrilled to have you here with us.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack this core problem.
Let's do it.
So many intermediate English learners, they feel like their biggest issue is grammar or maybe just not knowing enough words.
Right, that's the common assumption.
But when we dove into the source material, the research pointed to something else, something far more damaging than a misplaced verb.
Absolutely. The biggest enemy is internal. It's not your English textbook.
So what is it?
It's really twofold. Comparison and fear.
Comparison and fear.
Yeah. The psychological cost of anxiety is often described by researchers with that word you picked up on, debilitating.
It actively harms you.
It actively harms your ability to perform and achieve. It's not just, an annoying feeling. It is a complex emotional barrier.
And it's tied to risk.
It's tied to a perceived risk. The risk that you will fail or look stupid or be judged.
Okay, so let's talk about that perception of risk. What are the specific sources of anxiety that the research points to? Because this isn't just for language learners, right? This is universal.
Totally universal. Any high-stakes social setting.
Oh.
But in the research, we can break it down into 4 main causes.
Okay.
The first one, and you could argue it's the most crushing, is the fear of negative evaluation.
The fear of what other people think.
Exactly. The fear that others, especially your peers, will judge you, that they'll laugh at your mistakes, or worse, they'll think you're incompetent.
Ugh, that feeling is so powerful. It just makes you want to disappear, Just become invisible in the room.
It does. And it forces you to prioritize self-protection over actually communicating.
Which is the whole point of being there.
Right. Then second, there's the perception of low ability.
So how you see yourself.
Yes, it's negative self-comparison. You look at someone else who seems to be speaking effortlessly, and you internalize this message that you are just fundamentally worse.
That you're not smart enough to learn the skill.
You're just not built for it, which is, of course, not true. But it feels true in that moment.
And that leads to that feeling of worthlessness you mentioned. What else is contributing to this anxiety cocktail?
Well, the third thing is more general. It's internal factors like low self-esteem and low confidence, which are often the result of those first 2 fears we talked about.
Do they build on each other?
They create a downward spiral. And finally, you have the external pressure.
Right.
Things like competition among classmates,
Ah.
or the high stakes of performance pressure, like a sudden speaking task, a test, a job interview.
Oh, the job interview is a big one.
A huge one. When people feel like their credibility's on the line, that anxiety just flares up exponentially. It's like pouring gasoline on a fire.
So it sounds like this isn't just a subjective feeling. Researchers have actually found ways to measure this specific problem. I saw a mention of something called the Foreign Language Classroom Anxiety Scale.
Yes, the FLCAS.
Tell us more about that. What is it?
The FLCAS is a really key piece of research. It's a specialized, scientifically validated tool.
Okay.
And its existence basically proves that this emotional barrier isn't just something people imagine. It's a legitimate, complex problem.
And it measures specific things.
It measures 3 specific aspects of language anxiety. First is communication anxiety, which is just that general discomfort of speaking in the language.
Makes sense.
Second is exam anxiety, so all the stress related to formal testing. And third, there's fear of poor grades, which is that high-stakes outcome pressure we mentioned.
Can you give us an example, just to make it feel real for the listener? Like, what kind of statement would be on that scale?
Certainly. So an item measuring communication anxiety might be a statement like, I feel nervous when I have to speak in English class.
And you rate how much you agree.
Exactly. Or for the fear of negative evaluation, it might be something like, I'm afraid the other students will laugh at me when I speak.
Wow.
By quantifying these feelings, by putting a number on them, the research is essentially validating your experience. It's saying, it's not just you.
Right.
This is a scientifically recognized, measurable problem.
Yeah.
And that means it needs specific, targeted solutions.
That validation is so important, knowing you're not alone in that feeling.
It's the first step.
Okay, let's go back to the comparison issue, because that's where the source material identifies what it calls the loop of doom.
The loop of doom. It's such a great name for it.
It is. That natural competitive instinct we all have, when you combine it with anxiety, it creates this awful self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's the comparison trap. It's so natural to want to be better, to improve. But when you perceive your ability as low, comparing yourself to a better peer, it just backfires spectacularly.
So this is what the sources call the backfiring effect. Can we break down the mechanics of that loop, like step by step, for clarity? How does it work?
Of course. So step 1 is the comparison itself. You're in a meeting, you hear a colleague deliver a flawless presentation or just chat fluently by the coffee machine.
And instantly you feel small. Inadequate.
Inadequate, that's the word, which leads directly to step 2. Negative self-talk.
The voice in your head.
The voice in your head starts saying things like, I am useless, or everyone speaks better than me, and that just crushes your confidence.
Okay, so you feel bad, your confidence is shot. What's next?
Step 3. And this is the most crucial step in the whole loop, avoidance.
You stop trying.
You stop trying. Because of the fear of making mistakes and that lack of confidence, you actively avoid communicating. You sit silently in meetings.
You turn down the invitation to lunch.
You avoid eye contact so nobody asks you a question. You make yourself invisible.
And then, because you're avoiding, you miss out on practice, which I'm guessing is step 4.
You got it. Step 4 is worsened fluency and a tighter loop. Fluency only improves through regular active practice. So your avoidance means your speaking skills either stagnate or they can even decline.
Oh, wow. So you can actually get worse.
You can. And then you confirm your original negative belief that you're bad at English, which then fuels even more anxiety in the next social situation.
And the loop just gets tighter and tighter.
You're locked in. As one analysis put it, you lock in your potential because the fear prevents the very practice that would make you better.
That is such a clear and, honestly, a scary explanation of how we sabotage ourselves.
It is.
It sounds like the only way out is to break that loop by challenging the very first step. Challenging the comparison itself.
That's the key.
Because, as the sources point out, our perception of that fluent person is often completely inaccurate.
It is. It's an illusion a lot of the time. We have to eliminate the judgment factor and recognize that this feeling of inadequacy is often based on, well, a mirage.
A mirage. So there are illusions of fluency we need to see through.
There are 2 main ones we really need to recognize and dismantle.
Okay, let's start with the first one. The accent trap. That seems to be a huge source of anxiety for intermediate learners.
It's massive.
Okay.
And it's the first illusion, the accent versus fluency trap.
What do you mean by that?
If someone speaks with a near-native pronunciation, we automatically assume they have a higher level of fluency and even intelligence.
Right. We think, wow, they sound perfect.
Exactly. But the source material, including anecdotes from learners with very distinct accents, a strong East European accent was mentioned as an example, makes it crystal clear.
What's the takeaway?
A noticeable accent does not mean you have a lower ability to communicate. Full stop.
So all that time obsessing over sounding perfect is actually missing the point.
It's entirely counterproductive. Your accent is often part of your identity. And while clarity is always important, of course, judging your overall communication skill based only on pronunciation it's pointless.
The goal is connection, not performance.
The goal is meaning and connection, not a perfect vocal performance. You can speak with a very distinct accent and still be incredibly effective, persuasive, and charming.
That is such a relief to hear, honestly. It frees up so much mental energy.
You really should.
Okay, so that's the first illusion. What's the second illusion that tricks us into thinking other people are so much more fluent than they really are?
That's what we can call the expertise trap.
The expertise trap.
Imagine you walk into a room and you hear someone just dominating a conversation. It's lively, it's technical, they're talking about, I don't know, investment banking or complex software architecture.
Right, and you can't even follow what they're saying.
Not even a little. You might instantly feel inferior because you can't contribute a single insightful comment.
Oh, I've felt that. 100%. The feeling that they are just smarter and more articulate than you are, period.
But here's the reality check. You have to stop and ask yourself, would I be able to discuss investment banking at length in my own native language?
And the answer is probably no.
Probably no. So the barrier isn't your English. The barrier is your lack of subject knowledge.
So that person who sounds so fluent is just operating entirely within their own specific area of expertise.
Their comfort zone, their passion. So if you suddenly engage them in a deep, nuanced debate over the latest trends in, say, digital art or the political history of a country they haven't studied.
Which are my areas of expertise.
Exactly. They would likely struggle just as much as you did a moment ago.
So we can't judge a person's overall English fluency based on one specific conversation about their passion project.
You can't. And what's really fascinating, and I think very encouraging, is that many people who achieve really high proficiency in English didn't do it through traditional, boring grammar studies.
How do they do it?
They did it by using English as a tool to acquire knowledge in their specific, passionate fields like engineering or medicine or programming.
So they improved their language skills because they were becoming subject matter experts.
Yes. The language learning was a side effect of their passion.
So the goal isn't to be the best English speaker in the room.
Yes.
The goal is to focus on your own personal growth.
That is the universal truth we have to internalize. You will always, always encounter someone who seems more fluent. You have to learn to embrace this as an opportunity to learn from them, not as a reason to retreat into your shell.
So change your perspective.
Change your perspective. The most effective strategy shared by successful learners is to stop judging the self of today against the perfect imaginary speaker in your head.
And instead
Start comparing the self of today with the self of 1 year ago.
That's powerful.
Because that comparison shows real, tangible, evidence-based improvement.
Yeah.
And that is what breaks the cycle of negative self-judgment.
That shift in perspective it's huge, focusing on progress, not perfection. And that brings us really neatly to the next phase here, moving beyond just understanding the psychological barriers.
And into focusing on actionable mindset changes.
Exactly. The sources talked about these invisible scripts that we use to limit ourselves.
Yes, and this analysis, particularly from Ramit Sethi, is just crucial. Because these beliefs are the excuses we cling to.
The excuses that allow us not to practice.
Yes. They solidify that false identity of being awkward or shy or bad at languages. We have to dismantle these three, what he calls WTF beliefs.
Okay, what's the first one? The belief that stops us from even starting to practice.
It's belief number one, the naturals myth.
The idea that some people are just born with it.
Exactly. We fundamentally believe that some people are just born smooth and charming and confident and, well, we're not. We see someone effortlessly leading a conversation and we think, I could never do that. They just have the gift.
So it's innate. It's not a learned skill.
That's the myth. But the truth is, the socially skilled people, they just get more practice. That's it.
More practice.
They interact more, which means they get more positive feedback, which creates what's called a virtuous circle of improvement.
A virtuous circle, not a vicious one.
Exactly. They probably started earlier, maybe before the fear of rejection really set in, and they just kept going. The only real barrier separating the perceived naturals from the awkward is the consistent willingness to engage and practice. It is a skill, not a genetic trait.
I love that framing. It really turns an excuse into a challenge, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, let's look at belief number 2. Why do we think practicing social skills is weird or shallow?
This is where our ego and a lot of cultural hang-ups get involved.
Oh, so.
Many people believe that their competence, their value, their inner brilliance, it should just speak for itself.
Right.
They feel that using techniques or practicing conversation starters or even focusing on body language is somehow insincere or manipulative.
They think, if I'm genuinely a good person or smart, people will just see it without me having to try.
And that is a recipe for failure in communication.
Wow. Harsh, but probably true.
The hard truth is that it is our responsibility to communicate our value effectively. If you are smart and well-prepared, but your first impression is poor because you can't establish rapport,
You'll be overlooked.
you will be overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
People use your social skills in your presentation to make split-second decisions about liking you and trusting you.
So practicing how you speak and your body language, it's just as necessary as practicing any other professional skill.
Just like practicing a technical skill.
Mm.
If you can't clearly articulate the amazing ideas in your head, then for the professional world, those ideas might as well not exist.
So social skills are the delivery system for all your other abilities.
Precisely. You have to be able to motivate, persuade, and connect. Which brings us to the most insidious belief of all,
Belief number 3.
deterioration.
Deterioration. What does that mean?
This is the deadly procrastination trap. It's the voice that says, I'll start improving my social skills later, when I'm ready.
The belief that social skills are just static. They won't get worse if you just ignore them for a while.
And it is so dangerous.
Mm.
Because every single day that you postpone improvement, you are losing opportunities.
And those consequences are real.
They're real and they compound over time. Missing a crucial connection at work, failing to secure a promotion, or just remaining isolated.
Yeah.
One author shared a really moving story about sitting alone on Friday nights, just waiting for his friends to text him, and realizing he had treated his social life as if it would just magically organize itself.
But it doesn't.
It doesn't. You have to be intentional about creating those opportunities.
That anecdote really brings home the emotional cost of doing nothing.
Right, and when you procrastinate, your social muscles atrophy. They get weaker. The fear of starting just grows because now you feel even further behind than you were 6 months ago.
So what's the solution?
The solution is to acknowledge the seriousness of this deterioration and just take immediate small actions.
Which means we have to treat social skills like going to the gym.
Exactly like the gym.
You wouldn't expect to magically lift heavy weights without training, so you can't expect to have smooth, effortless conversations without practice.
That analogy is perfect.
Yeah.
And you have to acknowledge that the only way to stop feeling awkward is to willingly, intentionally go through the awkward.
Go through it, not around it.
You have to be willing to try and fail, to stumble over your words or mispronounce something a few times before you find your authentic conversational rhythm.
Confidence grows one hello at a time.
Not in giant leaps, one hello at a time.
Okay, so let's get super practical. If our listener is ready to step into that awkward phase and start practicing, what's the very first lowest stakes step they should take?
We start with preparation. You have to build a conversation toolbox.
A toolbox. I like that.
The reason people freeze is obviously because their mind just goes completely blank. So you need to preload a few small, interesting ideas.
So that when someone asks, how was your week, you don't just give that classic confidence-destroying response.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Good.
Right. So you prepare 3 to 5 small, low-stakes conversation starters that you genuinely want to share.
What kind of ideas should they prepare? Give us some examples.
Think of it like a mental checklist. What's one cool thing that happened to you this week? Did you try a new cafe or a new app or a strange food? Did you watch something interesting, a documentary maybe?
These little pre-planned ideas prevent the blackout.
They're a bridge to a real spontaneous interaction. And the beauty is you can prepare them in English, rehearse the sentences in your head.
Okay, so you have your toolbox. Where should you apply these new skills first? Where are the lowest stakes?
You start with your low-stakes practice. We're talking about the daily interactions that carry zero long-term consequence.
So not your big job interview.
Definitely not. Chat with the barista about where the coffee beans are from. Ask the FedEx delivery person a specific question about their route or their day.
Or something even smaller.
Even smaller. Simply practice saying thank you in full, clear, projected sentences. Make eye contact instead of just mumbling.
So instead of just thanks, I might say, thank you so much for putting the package right by the door. I really appreciate the care you took.
Precisely. You've used a full sentence, you've demonstrated a positive body language, and you added a specific detail. These tiny interactions build the social muscles you need for the big performance, but without any of the high-stakes pressure.
And here's where we need a key mindset shift, which the sources talked about. We often prioritize efficiency in our lives, but for real connection, we have to embrace inefficiency.
This is a massive realization for so many people. If you are obsessed with speed and productivity, you will bypass every single opportunity for connection.
Connection's messy.
Connection is inherently messy and inefficient. If you only focus on getting the transaction done, getting the coffee, handing off the package, you miss the human moment.
Can you give us a powerful example of that, of inefficiency leading to connection?
Think about the moments of driving your children somewhere. If you optimized for efficiency, you'd always use the fastest route, or maybe hire a driver.
Right. Get from A to B as fast as possible.
But the simple, unplanned moments during those winding, inefficient road trips, that's often where the most meaningful, deep conversations happen.
Because there's nothing else to do but talk.
Exactly. You have to intentionally slow down and allow for the messy, unexpected dialogue to happen. Sometimes, throwing efficiency to the wind is the key to fulfillment and real relationship building.
That mindset sets us up perfectly for our next section. We've talked a lot about talking, but the secret weapon for conversation confidence, it isn't speaking more.
No.
It's learning to listen with intent.
This is the cornerstone. This is how you move from being an anxious performer to being a confident connector.
And the material is really clear on this.
Very clear. Effective communication is not about how eloquent you sound. It's about how the other person feels when they talk to you.
And that feeling is built on active listening.
Entirely.
So what's the core difference between just hearing someone and actively listening to them?
Active listening requires three things: conscious attention, empathy, and the intention to truly understand the other person's perspective.
Okay, so most people, they're not doing that.
Most people listen only to reply. While the other person is still talking, they are in their own head, crafting their next brilliant sentence.
Waiting for their turn to speak.
Active listening means giving undivided, focused attention. You are completely immersed in their story.
You know, I find that when I genuinely focus on listening, I stop worrying about what I'm going to say next, and that actually reduces my anxiety a lot.
That's the magic of it. When you shift your focus from your own self-performance to serving the speaker's needs, to making them feel heard, your self-consciousness just melts away.
And the benefits are huge.
They're transformative. Active listening fosters trust, it reduces emotional distance, and it enhances collaboration, all because the speaker feels valued and respected.
So how do we practice this intention? How do we train ourselves to listen to understand instead of just listening to reply?
The practice of intent means you're listening for the subtext. You're listening for the emotion, not just the dictionary definition of the words.
It's like reading the room, not just the dictionary.
That's a perfect way to put it. You're paying attention to how they say something. Are they hesitating? Are they excited? And when you reflect their emotions back to them, like saying, wow, you sound really energized about that project, you open the space for a much richer, deeper dialogue.
So if active listening is the conscious, intentional practice, what about the unconscious behaviors that build rapport instantly?
That brings us to mirroring. It's also known as the chameleon effect.
The chameleon effect.
It's a fascinating subconscious behavior where one person subtly imitates the gestures, the speech pattern, or the attitude of another person. It's often completely unintentional, which is what makes it so powerful.
Why does that work? Like on a biological level?
It's rooted in neuroscience. Mirroring establishes rapport because nonverbal similarities signal to our primitive brains, we are safe, we are in sync.
A sense of belonging.
A sense of belonging, and it's activated by something called mirror neurons in the brain. These neurons fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else performing that same action. It creates an immediate physiological bond.
So if I consciously slow down my speech to match the pace of the person I'm talking to, or if I subtly shift my posture to match theirs, I'm building trust without even saying a word.
Exactly. You're leveraging the chameleon effect. And research shows this is crucial in high-stakes environments.
Like what?
We tend to unconsciously mirror individuals we perceive as having higher status or power.
That makes so much sense in a job interview setting.
Totally. If you mirror the interviewer's open, relaxed body language, you are subconsciously signaling similarity and reducing tension. It can help you gain favor and create rapport.
So you're not being fake.
You're being socially attuned.
But to do any of this, to practice active listening and mirroring, you have to be physically present. That seems obvious, but in our digital age, it feels like it needs repeating.
It absolutely does. Real-time physical presence is vital for connection.
Yeah.
You have to prioritize eye contact. You have to offer genuine smiles.
A smile really does that much.
A smile, even a slight one, draws people to your eyes and signals openness. It promotes connection. Seeing ourselves reflected in another person's engaged face activates parts of ourselves that just cannot be activated digitally.
You have to be there.
You have to be physically and emotionally present to maximize that connection. If you're half looking at your phone or staring over their shoulder, you've broken the circuit of trust.
The takeaway here seems so clear. If you focus on making the other person feel valued and respected,
Your own fear just shrinks
your fear of making language errors diminishes entirely.
because you move from a fear-based performance mode into an authentic relationship mode.
Yeah.
And that authenticity, that's the deepest source of confidence there is.
Okay, so we've built the mindset. Now we need the concrete, actionable techniques, the toolkit.
Right.
Let's start by looking at how leaders or teachers or managers can create that safety net for learners.
Right, because creating a safe environment is non-negotiable. If you're leading a team or a class, your behavior sets the entire tone.
So what's the number one thing a leader can do?
The single most powerful, proven technique is delaying error correction.
Okay, I have to challenge this a little bit. If I'm a manager and my team member is constantly making the same grammatical mistake, isn't there a danger that delaying correction just lets bad habits solidify?
That's a fair and really important question. The research definitely acknowledges this balance.
So what's the key?
The key is about immediate, on-the-spot correction during a speaking activity. That is what kills confidence.
The interruption.
The interruption. When a learner is in the middle of expressing a complex thought, and you jump in to fix a preposition, you send a message that the form is more important than the content.
And that discourages them from ever trying to express a complex thought again.
Exactly. So the goal in that moment is flow and content, not technical perfection.
Errors are just part of the process.
Errors should be seen as a natural, necessary part of the learning mechanism. Correction can happen after the activity. Maybe you record the errors made by the whole group and discuss them anonymously later.
So the main belief a leader should foster is,
The goal is to continue the speaking activity despite making errors.
that changes the whole dynamic. What about the social structure of the group?
Leaders have to actively avoid comparison. They have to promote cooperation.
Because when it feels competitive,
Anxiety skyrockets. When learners are worried about being better than their neighbor, they shut down. Group work, where peers cooperate on a task, is far less face-threatening than individual performance.
and that leads us to the fun stuff, the activity-based strategies that leverage safety and fun.
Yes, the fun fixes.
The research mentioned game-based learning. How does that specifically reduce anxiety?
Game-based learning works because it shifts the focus away from linguistic performance and onto the objective of the game.
So you forget you're practicing English.
You forget you're being judged. The pressure's on winning or solving the puzzle, so you get distracted from the self-consciousness of making a mistake. It's proven to reduce anxiety and dramatically increase motivation. The language becomes a tool for play.
I love that. What about the role of music? That was an interesting one.
The research on music instruction is fascinating. When students were taught their favorite English songs, their anxiety was measurably reduced, especially for students who started with really high anxiety levels.
And it actually helped their performance.
It correlated with improved exam performance later on. Music engages your emotional memory and reduces stress. Learning lyrics and rhythm is fluency practice in a low-risk, highly enjoyable way.
And then there's the one that creates an emotional safety net, role plays.
Role plays are crucial because they protect the learner's self-image.
How does that work?
When a learner takes on a new persona with a fake name, say, they become a high-powered CEO named Alex or a tough detective named Sam, they're disguising their true self.
So the fear of negative evaluation goes down.
It's mitigated. The mistake isn't their mistake, it's Alex's mistake. So they can experiment with the language, they can try on new levels of confidence, they can use dramatic intonation, all without feeling personally judged.
That's brilliant. You're trying on confidence like a mask until it genuinely becomes your own internal
But
style.
that's the idea.
Okay, now let's flip it. What can the individual learner do for themselves when that anxiety hits? What are the learner self-coping mechanisms?
We recommend 3 main areas of personal effort. First is daily speaking practice.
The small, consistent efforts.
Yes, like using those low-stakes techniques we discussed, or even watching videos of highly fluent speakers and repeating phrases back. Just getting your mouth used to the sounds.
Okay, what's second?
Second, actively practice relaxation techniques. This means deep breathing before a high-stakes event, using positive self-talk, and consciously adjusting your body language to project calm and openness, even if you don't feel it.
Fake it till you make it.
A little bit, yes. And the third, which has the strongest correlation with reduced anxiety, is learning and using oral communication strategies, or OCS.
OCS, that sounds important.
It's key. These are the techniques learners use to actively navigate difficult communication situations when their knowledge fails them.
And there's data on this.
Yes, studies show a strong negative correlation between OCS use and anxiety. Meaning, the more strategies a learner uses, the less anxiety they feel.
Because they feel like they have control.
They have control over the situation even when they don't know the exact word.
Control equals confidence. Can you give us 3 or 4 concrete examples of these OCS that a B1 learner can start using today?
Absolutely. Number 1 is circumlocution.
That's a big word. What does it mean?
It just means you describe the word you can't remember. So if you forget the word scissors, you say, it's the thing you use to cut paper.
And that keeps the conversation moving.
Right. Number 2 is using fillers and hesitation devices. Phrases like, let me think about that for a second, or that's an interesting point, hang on.
Buys you time.
Buys you crucial mental time to formulate your thought without a long, awkward silence.
Okay, what else?
Third, appealing for help. Don't be afraid to just ask, how do you say X? Or, what's the word for the opposite of this? Fluent speakers usually appreciate the honesty.
And number 4.
Approximation. Using a similar word when you can't remember the exact one. If you forget enormous, you just use very big. The goal is clarity, not perfection.
Those are immediately usable tools. When you have those in your back pocket, the fear of what if I freeze is reduced because you have a plan B.
Exactly. You're learning to manage the inevitable chaos of communication. And that brings us to the final piece of the practical toolkit.
Which is?
Gracefully ending a conversation.
The exit. Why is the exit so crucial?
Because we spend all this time worrying about the icebreaker, the first impression. But the exit leaves the final impression.
And confident people don't just vanish awkwardly.
They close the loop with grace. If you let a conversation drag on, the final impression can be one of mutual discomfort. You want the person to walk away associating you with warmth and charm.
So what are the characteristics of a confident, graceful exit?
It's definite, it's polite, and it's respectful of the other person's time. You acknowledge the connection you just made, and then you state your next action.
So you're not cutting them off?
No, you're managing the connection. You can use simple phrases that state a genuine transition.
Like what?
It's been great talking to you, but I need to grab a coffee before the next session starts. Or, I have really enjoyed our chat. I should head off, but I hope we can talk again soon.
That kind of phrasing ensures you maintain that rapport right up until the very last second.
And it solidifies that positive impression you worked so hard to create.
This has been such a rich, deep dive. We've validated the anxiety, we've broken it down, and we've provided specific, manageable steps forward. If we had to summarize the main takeaway for our listener, that learner who just wants to talk to anyone with confidence, what is the ultimate core message?
I think the core message is this. Confidence isn't about being perfect, and it's definitely not about being born a natural.
So what is it about?
It's about being present, being open, and prioritizing human connection over linguistic performance.
Stop judging yourself.
Stop judging yourself against that flawless imaginary speaker in your head and start focusing intently on the tangible improvement you've made from the self of 1 year ago.
Beautifully said. When you make that shift, you stop speaking to impress.
And you start speaking to express.
And when you reach that transformative realization, English or any difficult skill you're learning, it stops being a subject you passively study.
It truly becomes a language you actively live. It stops feeling like homework, and it starts feeling like authenticity.
So to put all of this into immediate action, we want to give you a micro challenge right now. Don't wait until tomorrow.
I love this.
Choose one of these 2 things to focus on today. Either prepare 2 cool things or interesting events for your very next conversation to put in your conversation toolbox.
Oh.
Or, during your next social interaction, focus entirely on listening with intent. Don't plan your reply. Just focus on making the other person feel uniquely valued and heard.
Start small. Be willing to go through the awkward.
And watch your confidence grow 1 hello, 1 deep breath, and 1 genuine connection at a time.
You can find all the resources and strategies we discussed today by subscribing to English Podcast Voice for more deep dives.
And remember, if you found this helpful, share it with a friend who might be struggling with their own confidence barrier.
I'm Quinn. See you next time.
And I'm Riley. Bye.